Hello, intermediate band. I'm coming to you again from my new office space. I'm starting to get it kind of put together. It's kind of hard to see behind me, but I've got one of my pictures here and the rest of them have not come yet. So I just have blank pieces of paper telling me what I plan to put up there. And the rest of my artwork and stuff hasn't happened yet, but we are getting there. Today, I would like to work on time signatures, and it dawned on me that we have had several different time signatures kind of all at once, and just I kind of threw them out there. And I really want to make sure that everybody, not just a few people, but everybody in the band understands what time signatures are and what they do and how to count them. So hopefully this will be somewhat of a review, but it's really easy to sit in class and let somebody else answer the question that was really strong in theory. So I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity in the privacy of their own, wherever you're taking this class, to work it through in your own head and figure it out. Because it is not difficult. It is not too hard for anybody in the group, but it is very easy to let other people do all the work for you and just end up kind of guessing at how to count things. And that is something that we do not want. So after today, you should be very well equipped to count in just about any time signature that you're going to encounter in my group, and be very prepared for what you may encounter later in advanced band or symphony or a jam session down the street, whatever. You'll be ready for it. So here we go. First thing I'm going to share with you is my whiteboard, that because it is so time consuming to create stuff in the whiteboard in Zoom, I did it all ahead of time for you. So you don't have to watch me try to write music notation in this. Here we go. First one should be totally review for everybody, I pray. The green one here, 4/4 time, is our friend, right? We've been playing in this since the beginning of beginning band. The top number in any time signature always tells you how many beats are in one measure. Always, 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 and forever. That's what it does. The bottom number happens to be 4. The job of the bottom number of a time signature is to tell you which note, which kind of note receives one beat. So if the bottom number is 4, that means a quarter note equals one beat. And I know it looks a little strange, and my theory teacher would not be pleased with my penmanship, but that is a quarter note here in green right here. And that equals one beat. So 4/4 time, 4 beats in a measure, 1 beat equals a quarter note. So 4 quarter notes fit in one measure of it, right? Hopefully that is complete review, and you're saying, what do you think? I haven't even paid attention in the last 3 years of band. No, I understand that everybody knows that, but I wanted to make sure that we are all on the same page with terminology. The blue up here is common time. Common time and 4/4 time are exactly the same time. They are the same thing. Common time is called that because 4/4 is the most often used time signature. So instead of writing 4/4 time, they just put a C up there. It stands for common time. It means exactly the same thing as 4/4 time. So the blue and the green are exactly the same thing. 4 beats in a measure, quarter note gets 1 beat. Moving on to this pink or fuchsia. 2/4 time also is fairly familiar, I think, to you guys. That means we have 2 beats in a measure, and still, because the bottom number is 4, we still have the quarter note receiving 1 beat. So you would count that 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and super cinchy stuff. Not any harder than 4/4 time. There's only 2 of them. I'm going to go down next to the brown example here, 3/4 time. Say it with me, 3 beats in a measure, quarter note equals 1 beat. So it's just like 4/4, 2/4 time, except for instead of 4 or 2 beats, we now have 3 beats in every measure. Okay. Obviously, there's a difference in how these time signatures feel while you're playing them. And we have such things as strong and weak beats that come into play to create that feeling. And I really feel like that's a discussion for a whole nother lesson. So I'm not going to say too much about that, except to say that it does make a difference which one we're using. And so if it just feels different, and a composer will choose the correct tool for the feeling that they're trying to get across. So it is important. We're going to come over here to this mustard color example, 6/8. I know that we have played examples from the book in 6/8 already, and you're fairly familiar with what it says. I know that we talked about it during band real recently, but I wanted to go over it again and make sure everybody absolutely understands. Sometimes just saying it out loud in band can be confusing for people. So here's a visual representation. We have the top number equals 6, which tells us that 6 beats are in every measure. The bottom number this time is not a 4, but an 8, which means that the 8th note gets 1 beat. Okay, so we can count, it would have 6 8th notes in a measure, and we would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so over here with my crudely drawn 8th notes, you would see that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6/8 is a little bit more complicated because it can also be counted in 2 big beats, which is why these 6/8 notes are not barred all together. They're in 2 groups of 3 to show you that you can count it 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, that comes back to the feeling of the piece and what the composer is trying to get across. Oftentimes, pieces in 6/8 will have both kinds of things happening at the same time. Some group will have all the 8th notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Another group will have a dotted quarter that would be 1, 2, 1, 2. The conductor has a choice, usually, on what they're going to conduct. Me personally, I would choose the group that's having the most trouble or needs the most help with the time. And so if that happened to be the 8th note people, I would go ahead and try to conduct all 6 of those beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If the half note people needed more help, I would switch to their beat. The exception to that is if the tempo was very fast or anything really above allegro, I would probably go into the 2 beats pattern, just because otherwise I start looking like I'm having a seizure. And I know that we've kind of covered that in class, and I showed you what that looked like. But I'm just reiterating in case you missed class or you were zoned out for a few minutes while we were talking about that. Okay, so that's 6/8. It is a little bit more complicated just because there's 2 ways to count it, but it's not hard. It's just different. Okay, in red, we have cut time. And cut time is actually a very lovely time signature, but people in this level and intermediate level tend to avoid it and act like it has a plague or something, and they just hate it. Oh, don't make us play in cut time, please. Can't we just play it in 4? And they moan and complain, and I've not quite understood that because it's not that difficult. It is just different, once again. And if you take about 10 minutes to really cement it in your head what it is talking about, then it's no harder than anything else. So here we go. We're going to do that very thing. The top number is 2. Top number always tells you how many beats are in a measure. So in this case, we have 2 beats. The bottom number is also 2, which means that the half note gets the beat. Cut time and 2/4 are not the same. I'm going to say that again. Cut time and 2/4 are not the same thing. In 2/4 time, you have a quarter note receiving 1 beat. In cut time, you have a half note getting the same beat. Cut time has also been called à la brève. On page 13 of your book, it has a whole page talking about cut time, and you can see the à la brève part in there. Honestly, in my experience, I haven't encountered that too often. I think it's more of an older term that isn't as used much now, or maybe it's more for strings, more used in string music. Whatever the case, it means the same thing. And you should be aware that à la brève means cut time, because you could encounter it and you don't want to look like you've never had intermediate band theory before. So you just know that that's another term that means cut time. Okay. Cut time is not any harder than anything else. It's just different. And the sooner that you learn how to count it correctly, the less different it will be, and it'll become just as easy as any other time signature. So we'll practice in a minute on cut time. I want to move on to 3/8 in my little discussion right now. Again, 3 beats in a measure, eighth note gets the beat. This one's pretty easy to count. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The only problem I see students have that kind of reoccurs is that they don't understand what kind of note to put in if they want one note for the whole measure of 3/8 time. So that brings us to dots. And what do dots do on the side of a note? Not a staccato marking, but an actual rhythmic marking. So here's just a review of that. I know that you've been taught this before, but it pays to kind of review it at this time when we're talking about all these different time signatures. What does a dot do to a note? It adds half again the value of the note. So if you have a dotted quarter note, the quarter note is 2/8 notes, right? Half of that is 1, so the dot equals 1/8 notes. So a dotted quarter note is equal to 3/8. Now, I am no mathematician and usually avoid as much math as possible in my life, but even I can figure this out. So there's no excuse. You can do it. You just have to decide that you're going to. It is not rocket science or very difficult math here. If Mrs. Lalainen can do it, so can you. So I challenge you to spend some time actually figuring this out and not just guess on how long a dotted note is. And that will make you so much more valuable or skilled as a musician, and you'll have the satisfaction of knowing what you're doing and not just guessing. All right, so that was a quick kind of down and dirty, a whole bunch of different time signatures all put together and what they mean. Hopefully that was mostly a review for you. So now it's time to practice a little bit. So the second thing I'm going to share with you is a MuseScore example. And I've tried to blow it up fast. I titled this Time Signature Mayhem because all of these examples are in different time signatures. I've taken them from your book, so they may be familiar to you if you've kept up with your book work. If not, they will be after this. So our goal here is to say out loud to your dog or to your teddy bears or whoever's listening to you, what each time signature means, and then count it out loud with the computer and I as we go through each example. And then we'll discuss each one just briefly. Okay, this is kind of a practice time of how to count all of this stuff. So our first time signature is just a big old fat C here. There is no line drawn through the C. So that means it's common time. Common time stands for what? Hopefully you said, well, common time is just 4/4 time. You crazy lady, how is that hard? It is not hard at all. It means 4/4 time, 4 beats in a measure, quarter note gets the beat. I have it set up so the computer is going to give us one whole measure just as a prep measure, and then we'll start. So right here, example 1 measure for free. 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Easy peasy, I hope, right? I'm not even going to repeat that twice because I'm sure that you can figure that. Common time and 4/4 time are the same. Speaking of 4/4 time, example 2 is in 4/4 time. What does 4/4 time mean? Say it out loud. Hopefully you said the top number means 4 beats in a measure and the bottom number means the quarter note receives 1 beat. In this example, we also have 16th notes. We talked about those briefly in band not very long ago. 16th notes are 1/4 of a beat in 4/4 time, so we count them 3E and a, or whatever the beat is, 2E and a, 3E and a, 4E and a, whatever it is. So here we have 1 quarter note, 2 and, 3E and a, 4. And I suggest to you that you need to make sure, especially with 16th notes, is you count them like a robot would, not sloppy like humans often do, 3 and a, which has no rhythm to it, but needs to be very articulate. And each one of those 16th notes need to be exactly the same. So 3E and a instead of 3E and a. So be very careful with how you count them, and that will give you the most benefit from the exercise and waste the least of your time. So here we go. Again, the computer's going to give you one whole measure for free and then that measure of rest, so don't get confused. 1, 2, ready, play. 1, 2, and 3 and a 4. 1, 2, and 3 and a 4. Easy, right? One more time. 2, ready, play. 1, 2, and 3 and a 4. 1, 2, and 3 and a 4. Easy, right? I think I also told you in class that a lot of times with 16th notes, I choose to say digga digga instead of 3E and a. And part of the reason why I do that is because if it's going super fast, I get confused on all the numbers and it doesn't come out as cleanly. But I need to tell you, and I think I didn't say this in class, is when I am learning how a rhythm goes, I, of course, slow it way down, and I will use numbers because digga digga does not tell you where in the measure that fits. So I do use numbers when I'm learning how it goes because it is information that you need in order to make sense of a rhythm to know which beat you're talking about. So yes, I will use all of the numbers for it when I'm learning it. Once I have it down, digga digga works pretty well. Personal preference for sure. Our next one is 2/4 time. What does 2/4 time mean? Say it out loud. Yes, 2 beats in a measure, quarter note receives 1 beat. Hopefully you said something that means the same thing. And again, 1 measure for free and then the rest. 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and a 1 and 2. Hopefully you didn't get confused by the computer going down one line. One more time. 2, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and a 1 and 2. Okay, again, we have the 16th notes here are all barred together, taking up 1 beat. It happens to be beat 2. All right. 6/8 is our next one. Again, remember 6/8 is the most complicated one because it can be counted 2 ways. And you can see the 2 big beats in the way things are grouped in 6/8, and you can also see the 6 smaller beats underneath. So here's our dotted quarter. Remember that is equal to 3 eighth notes. So here we go. One, two, three, four, five, six. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's really slow, so you should have had no trouble with that one, right? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hopefully you can see that if you count all of those eighth notes, you know exactly where to put these ones, and this somewhat complicated rhythm does not phase you in the least because you know exactly where it is. If you are not counting eighth notes there, you have to guess how long those quarter notes are, and guessing rarely works out splendidly in music. Here we have our new friend, cut time. And cut time means what? Yes, I hope that you said cut time means 2 beats in a measure, half note gets 1 beat. So here we go. Here's the 1 and 2 and 1, 2. And it's also going to be fairly slow. 1, 2. 1 and 2 and 1, 2. 1 and 2 and 1, 2. Simple, right? Nothing hard about it, just different from what you're used to. 1, 2. 1 and 2 and 1, 2. 1 and 2 and 1, 2. Easy, easy, easy. Please, I beg of you, and in all other ways implore you not to just simply count it in 4 quickly and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and try to just, I don't have to learn cut time, I can count it in 4 fast. Yes, you can. And you will probably get away with it for quite some time. I know that I did, because I never understood what cut time meant until, I'm ashamed to say, probably almost to college, before I really understood what that meant. And I guessed a lot about how to play things. And because I had really good players around me, I could kind of follow what they did and make it work. Cut time is not a mystery, so there's no reason to have to guess. And if you count it in 4, it feels different. And that goes back to the collection of strong and weak beats that I talked about before, and we're not going to really get into that too much right here, but trust me, it sounds different and it feels different. You can probably tell by how somebody plays whether they're counting in 2 or 4. And so it does make a difference. Even if you don't believe me now, just trust me and put in the work. It's not that much harder, and you will be happier with the results. So enough soapboxing there. We're moving on to 3/4, which really nobody in my experience has a trouble with 3/4. Let's go over quickly. 3/4 means 3 beats in a measure, quarter note receives 1 beat. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3. Not going to bother doing that one twice. I think everybody understands 3/4. 3/8 is also pretty easy, I feel like, to play in. It simply means what? 3 beats in a measure, eighth note receives 1 beat. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That time, this one I am going to do again because it's pretty fast. We're counting every eighth note. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If it goes much faster than this, the conductor may conduct it in 1, so you only see 1 beat. 1, 1, 1, 1 at that point. You are responsible for counting the other 2 beats yourself and feeling them yourself. The conductor is not going to give you every single one because you're not a 2-year-old and you can count, right? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Last example. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Easy, I hope. So I hope that this little lesson has kind of taken some of the guesswork out of these time signatures and given you at least some more practice understanding what they are and working with them. To show me that you have watched this video and figured out what I'm talking about, I would like you to take any piece of paper, lined or just whatever, any piece of paper, put your name at the top, write down these 7 different time signatures and what they mean. So that will look much like the whiteboard that I showed you earlier. You'll have 4, 4, and by the top 4, you'll say 4 beats in a measure. The bottom 4, you'll say quarter note equals 1 beat. And just go down the list. You don't have to write any rhythms. You don't have to count anything for me, but I do want you to show me that at the very least, you understand what the numbers mean. And so that will show me that you at least watched this video and encourage me in trying to come up with some more material for you that will be beneficial to your learning. I feel like since we also don't have a whiteboard or chalkboard very handy in class, this is still a good way to do theory. So I'm going to continue, even though we are meeting together, yay, I'm going to continue sending out video lessons when I feel like there's theory things that we need to address. So that is my plan. I will continue making the background a little bit more exciting for you guys to watch. And I wish you the best. Until then, I see you on Thursday.